What if the most common career advice you've ever heard is, well, completely wrong? Hey book lovers, ever wish you could get through a whole book in just a few minutes? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to another insight-packed summary here on Summerpedia, where we bring you more titles in way less time.
All right, so today we're diving into a really important and super practical book, So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. Now this book, it offers a totally radical, evidence-based alternative to the career advice we've all heard a million times. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Okay, so Newport doesn't waste any time. Right from the get-go, he hits us with this really provocative statement. He basically argues that this whole idea of finding your one true passion and then finding a job to match it, it's not just a little flawed, he says it's actually dangerous advice.
So, you might be asking, dangerous? How can feel-good advice be dangerous? Well, Newport shows us exactly how it can all go wrong in the real world, and he uses a pretty powerful story to do it.
So let's talk about a guy named Thomas. This guy was absolutely obsessed with Zen Buddhism. I mean, for years, he was convinced his true calling in life was to become a monk. So what does he do? He actually does it. He follows his passion all the way to a secluded monastery. And you'd think he'd be happy, right? Nope. He was miserable. It turns out his dream scenario didn't magically fix his anxieties, it just gave them a different backdrop. Thomas's story is honestly a pretty sobering warning for all of us. And that right there, the idea that led Thomas down this path, is what Newport calls the passion hypothesis. This is the big one. It's the core idea behind almost all modern career advice. You hear it in books, speeches, from counselors who totally mean well, and hey, it sounds great, right? Find what you love. But as we're about to find out, it's built on a really shaky foundation. So who is this book really for? Well, if you've ever felt like that never-ending search for your one true passion is just making you more anxious and confused, then this book is definitely for you. It's for literally anyone, whether you're a student just starting out or a professional who feels kind of stuck, who wants a real, concrete strategy for building a great career instead of just, hoping to trip over it one day.
Okay, so how does Newport prove his point? I mean, stories are great, but he doesn't stop there. No, he goes after the passion hypothesis with the heavy artillery. Data, history, and actual scientific research.
And this first one is a biggie because it dismantles a huge myth. We've all seen that famous Steve Jobs speech, right? Where he says, "You've got to find what you love." Well, here's the twist. His own life story tells a completely different tale. A young Steve Jobs wasn't some tech genius with a burning passion. He was more of a spiritual seeker, kind of lost. And Apple? It started as a little scheme to make some quick cash. It wasn't born from some pre-existing passion. It was a lucky break that eventually grew into a passion. And it turns out, Steve Jobs isn't some weird exception. Check this out. A study of university students in Canada found that, most of them had passions. But guess what? A whopping 96% of those passions were for hobbies, things like sports, art, you name it. Only a tiny little 4% had passions that were actually related to work or school. And that brings up a really important question. How are you supposed to follow your passion if you don't even have one that could be a career?
And the science totally backs this up. Years of psychological research point to three key things. First, just like we saw, having a pre-existing career passion is super rare. Second, studies show passion isn't something you start with. It's not an input, it's an output. It's something that grows over time as you get better at what you do. And third, the actual science and motivation tells us that what really gets us going is feeling competent and having some control over our work. It's not about finding a job that's just like your favorite hobby.
Okay, so follow your passion as a trap. What are we supposed to do instead? Well, this is where Newport introduces a really powerful alternative mindset.
And the answer comes from a place you might not expect, the comedian Steve Martin. Seriously, when people asked him for career advice, he didn't give them some fluffy line about following their dreams. He said, "Be so good they can't ignore you." He spent something like a decade just working, grinding, and refining his comedy until he was just undeniable. And that philosophy is the absolute core of what Newport suggests we do instead. This really breaks down into two totally different ways of thinking about your work. You've got the passion mindset, which is all about me. It's constantly asking, what can this job do for me? Do I love this? And that just leads to endless second guessing. But then you have the craftsman mindset. This one is focused outward. It asks, what value am I bringing to the world? Am I getting better? It shifts your focus away from your own feelings and onto the quality of your work. And that, my friends, gives you clarity and a real path forward.
Now, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The craftsman mindset is a super practical strategy, and it works through a key concept that Newport calls career capital.
Just for a second, think about what makes a job truly awesome. Newport boils it down to three main things: having creativity, making an impact, and having control or autonomy. Sounds amazing, right? The only problem is jobs that actually have all those things are pretty rare and super valuable.
So, simple economics, right? If you want something that's rare and valuable, you've got to have something rare and valuable to trade for it. And that something is what Newport calls your career capital. Think of it like the currency of your career. You build it by deliberately practicing, getting better, and honing your skills until you are, well, so good they can't ignore you.
So here it is, the whole theory laid out in 3 simple steps. Step 1, the best jobs have these rare and valuable traits. Step 2, to get those traits, you need to have rare and valuable skills of your own. That's your career capital. And step 3, the absolute best way to build that capital is to adopt the craftsman mindset. The bottom line here is powerful. You don't just find a great job, you build one.
And this is the big question the book leaves us with. It's a fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of frantically searching for the right work, what if you focused on working right? It's all about moving from finding to building.
So who is the guy behind all these pretty powerful and counterintuitive ideas? Well, learning a little bit about the author, Cal Newport, really helps explain why his advice is so different from what we usually hear.
Yeah, Cal Newport is not your typical career guru. He's actually a computer science professor at Georgetown University, and that academic background is key because it means his advice isn't based on fuzzy, feel-good ideas. It's grounded in solid research, observation, and real logic. He's basically approaching this like a scientist, trying to figure out what actually works, not just what sounds nice.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground here, so let's boil it all down to the most important takeaways you can start thinking about today.
So here's the new game plan. First, stop trying to find your passion. Seriously. Instead, adopt the craftsman mindset and just focus relentlessly on becoming great at what you do. As you do that, you'll be building up your career capital. Then you can invest that capital to get more of those great job traits like autonomy and impact. And that's when passion shows up, not as the thing you start with, but as the awesome reward you get for becoming a master of your craft.
And that right there is the core message of So Good They Can't Ignore You. It's a total game changer of a book that gives you a real practical path to building a career you can actually love. Hey, thanks so much for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more impactful book summaries from all of us here at Summarypedia.